This is my question. What will Donald Trump's MAGA supporters do if he loses the election?
So what does this have to do with Julian Assange again, Sarah?
Now I know what you're thinking. If only we could all end our correspondence with Marjorie Taylor Greene with such ease.
The result of the election is on the minds not just of Americans, but of the whole world. So it's a natural point of curiosity. But I understand that we've reached the end of the questions that you want to answer. Thank you for talking to us about Julian Assange and for joining the program.
But sadly, she remains to be an intractable stain on the fabric of this nation. Things haven't exactly gone to plan for Marge as of late. First, she was booed mercilessly during her campaign stop in Virginia for a MAGA candidate, reminding her how she is perceived outside the MAGA bubble.
Excuse me, let me correct you, and this is really important. I don't worship, I worship God. God. And Jesus is my savior. I don't worship President Trump.
To then receive a similar welcome outside the jail that awaits Steve Bannon, which provided some much needed comedic relief, watching her try to speak in his defense.
Hopefully 10,000%.
Where's the Democrats? Where are they? Okay, nowhere.
Look, folks, if it took me going to prison, remember, the reason I chose Danbury, I asked for Danbury for a very specific reason. Back in the only other person that's ever been sent to prison for a congressional subpoena, not going to a House subpoena, for contempt, held in contempt, was written.
But it seems it's not just in America that Marge has made a name for herself for all the wrong reasons. She's fastly becoming internationally known as an utter embarrassment to the country. After yelling at a BBC reporter, she continued her tantrum-like behaviour on Australian TV when asked the simplest of questions that you would think an elected official could answer with ease. Would she accept the results of the election if Trump were to lose? And much like the rest of her cult members who are elected to serve public office, she refused to answer.
If Biden wins, will you accept the result?
Again, what does this have to do with Julian Assange? Seriously,
it's the
really, that's what we're supposed to be
about
talking
truth. And why would I?
What network is this?
What
is this? ABC in Australia? Is she getting any marching orders from the Democrat Party? I mean, is this what you decided to come up with today?
You're a prominent figure in US politics. The first debate is tomorrow. The result of the election is on the minds not just of Americans, but of the whole world. So it's a natural point of curiosity. But I understand that we've reached the end of the questions that you want to answer. Thank you for talking to us about Julian Assange and for joining the program.
Thank you. Good night.
And the thing is, it's sort of a mundane question, right? Considering who she is. We know the answer. She won't, because she didn't. She refused to accept them first time around, and despite literally calling for people to take to the streets, leading to an insurrection in which Trump supporters attacked police. Side note, remember, she backs the blue. She's only doubled down in her betrayal of the very things she claims to uphold, calling these terrorists hostages.
Just finished with our meetings here at the White House this afternoon. We had a great planning session for our January 6th objection. We aren't going to let this election be stolen by Joe Biden and the Democrats. President Trump won by a landslide. Call your House reps, call your senators from your states. We've got to make sure they're on board, and we already have a lot of people engaged. Okay, stay tuned.
She has absolutely no intention of accepting any result that is not a victory for Trump, because you need integrity to admit defeat. She has none, nor intelligence, class, humility, style, or even at least a sense of humor. She is far and away the frontrunner for most insufferable Republican, and make no mistake, that is a tough category to lead in, considering there's Ted Cruz, the man who applauded a guy who called his wife ugly even after that man left the room.
he kept clapping after Donald Trump left the room. After the door was closed, did he think Donald Trump could see through the door?
And not to forget the likes of Lauren Boebert, who she's up against.
His next target was Beetlejuice aficionado Lauren Boebert.
Do you want to talk about the theater thing?
Sure. So, Kyle, I certainly have owned up to my night out in Denver. I've gone on that public apology tour, and I'm grateful for the mercy and grace that has been shown. But I'm not going to continue to live life in shame and be beat up by this. And, I would like to go back to my legislative record for just a second.
We're not going to do that. You had plenty of time to answer the question. You chose not to.
Sure.
That's fine.
This is quite a menu of items on this debate. Guns, DUIs, you got hand jobs, high-speed chase. I mean, Colorado is gaining some serious ground on Florida here.
I just want to make sure. And you have apologized for the theater incident.
I certainly have.
And I just want to make sure. Did you apologize for the behavior that went on with you and your date, or the vaping, or did you apologize for lying to voters about what you did that night and the disrespect that you showed to service workers that night? What specifically were you apologizing?
I don't believe there was disrespect. There were things that were absolutely taken out of context.
There's video of your interactions with service workers. I'm asking,
right,
are you apologizing for the lying to voters,
that I flipped someone off and I did not?
But when she gets on air during an interview and shamelessly claims that she was against Iraq after 9/11, the same 9/11 that she actually denied happened.
Well, what ushered in Donald Trump's presidency is the American people who were ready for a change in Washington, D.C. The cables and the information that Julian Assange released were much needed for the American people. I, for one, and many others, practically everyone I know, always questioned America going into Iraq. I think there were better solutions to what happened after 9/11.
And the so-called plane that crashed into the Pentagon. It's odd. There's never any evidence shown for a plane in the Pentagon. But anyways, I'm not going to dive into the 9/11 conspiracy.
And then refuses to say anything against the Russian government that she panders to. You can see why she leads as the most insufferable and is detested.
But to be clear, you deplore the actions of the Russian government targeting the Democratic National Committee as you do Chinese or other actors.
To be clear, I applaud Julian Assange for the information that he released. And also remember, it was Bradley Manning, who was a member of the military, that released that information. That's the fact that seems to be forgotten. Bradley Manning now calls himself Chelsea Manning. He's a biological man that parades himself as a woman. And no one seems to want to talk about his engagement and role in all of this.
I'm just going to question the use of the word parade, but let me just come back to this to get some clarity.
But in this instance, the Australian reporter handled it exactly how one should when dealing with KK Karen. Allow her the freedom to make a mockery of herself, because you best believe she'll grasp that opportunity with both hands.
You think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
Mr. Chairman,
Fauci,
objection.
I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. Mr. Raskin.
Gentlelady will suspend. Mr. Chairman, of order. Just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor just because we don't want him to be a doctor?
Yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked and he belongs in prison.
Will suspend. The gentlelady should recognize the doctor as a doctor.
Dr. Fauci, you talked about how, we live in partisan times, a lot of misinformation. And colleagues on this body said, you should be, charged and found guilty. Of course, the only one that's happened to is your former boss.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.